Hello, Roger. Here we are once again together. I'm so glad to see you and for this new conversation. Remind me, how many videos have we done? And would this be the seventh, the eighth?
The eighth.
The eighth. Wow, amazing. So for those that are watching and don't know Roger, Roger is I guess, a communicator with all sentient fields, including the star beings. And there is a lot that Roger shares on his blog called Out and About. So I will share this below. And yes, always excited to hear your insights and your news and what are you receiving from your teams. So yeah, let's begin.
Okay. Well, let me first talk a little bit about Michael Perfetto. You know, doing it now at the beginning rather than maybe later on. Um, Michael Perfetto is a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, very well trained, very skillful, very intuitive. And I began to work with him in 2017. And we started with acupuncture and various Chinese herb formulas. And then, I guess, partway through 2018, he started offering medical qigong. And I just jumped on that because I had read about it and I thought it would be something really fantastic, and it turned out to be, beyond what I could imagine. And so, as you and I have discussed in some of the other videos, um, when Michael is doing direct energy work on the major organ systems, it's not really the physical organ, rather, it's an energy system. And like when he's working on the heart is an example. Um, it would be like an energy system that kind of approximates the heart. I think that's about as good as I can describe it. I'm sure Michael would be far superior because he's actually doing it. Um, but like when he's working on the various organ energy systems, remarkable things happen. It's like multiple layers, multiple dimensions happening simultaneously. And often when he's working on my heart, images or messages will come to him. They'll come to me. Um, what's really interesting about this is that at the end of our session, we'll talk about our experiences. And sometimes Michael will write something down. Sometimes he'll make sketches of something. And some of our experiences might be different. But when we're sharing with one another, we see that it's the same thing seen from different perspectives. And we always get a chuckle out of that. And the other thing that happens is that all of this higher level help is right there in the room from my team of guides, who are various kinds of star beings and other kind of uh, uh, higher dimensional helpers. And as I've said before, there's never a session where it feels like it's just Michael and me. It's always much, much more. Um, so I hope that that's a good introduction to Michael. We've been collaborating, like I said, since 2017. And in addition to working with Michael, then there's energy practices that I do myself each day that also enable me to have these higher level experiences. Um, but like you and I were talking in our previous video, um, I'm not actively making a, a, a connection as such. The connections are already here. They're a part of me.
It's constant.
It's constant, and like right this moment, I can like tap in with my guides or like visualize maybe a particular guide, feel that energetically. So yeah, it's very much constant. And in our last video, you and I were talking about like parallel lives, if you will. Um, like when I'm doing the energy work, it's kind of like that's one part of me, if you will. And then, like my daily life with my family and, running to the organic market and, you know, that kind of thing. That's another part of me. Um, but the way that I like to visualize it is not so much parallel like this, but just kind of shift it and think of it in terms of like an energy continuum. So, like this is happening, and it's simultaneous.
I like that. I'm gonna write that down. Would you say that that's similar to the octaves in music? Well,
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, like the overtone series.
I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So,
I
would you
should I
say,
should mention, excuse me. I should also mention that Michael's a composer too.
oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when I was first being introduced to Michael, we discovered that we went to the same music school, the Berklee College of Music in Boston. And I
Amazing.
studied jazz composition. And Michael's his study was film scoring.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, would you say that a lot of this connection is A, because you are so focused on your own field, your own energy, your own, yeah, I know you do a lot of qigong and as you
Mhm.
say, you have your own practices. Because I feel it's so important for people listening, if they want to be in a really clear space within themselves, what would it be good for all of us? And if people are not used to it, where would they start?
Yeah, that's a question that we explore in each of our videos. And um, it's interesting, like when I go back to our previous videos and you raise that question, I see how there's kind of like a commonality, like a base uh, response, but then we've
Yeah.
been adding to it. Um, at first, we were focused on suggesting that people go out in nature, and that's certainly a very good one, and it's something that I do each day. Um, in our Oh yeah, and then I think in one of the videos you were talking about people having some kind of a practice, and
Yes.
it wouldn't matter so much what it is, because there's so many different kind of practices that are wonderful, but just have something to do, um, and that helps too. And with that, I just remembered. In fact, I felt a tap on the shoulder just now. Um, Number of years ago, I think this just might have been a vision that came to me rather than a dream or having a session with Michael. I had a vision of a whale and the whale was coming up to the surface, and it took in air, and then it went down into the depths. And it was a beautiful vision. And how that spoke to me was that each day we can do something for just a short amount of time to help us focus, to help us kind of tap into higher qualities of ourselves, whatever method we use, but just have a little focusing me time, if you will. And then we go back, we go back into the depths of our lives. But this actually happened to me. I'm so glad you asked that question, because I was wanting to share this experience. Last night, I was listening to a wonderful piece by Claude Debussy, his Nocturnes. And the music is just so inspiring to me. His melodies, his orchestration, his harmonic adventurousness, the way that he combines different instruments, and but I was just so much in my zone listening to this. It was so inspiring to me, that I just had this thought, since I'm a composer, like I just had this brief moment of saying, I could never write anything that would come close to what Debussy wrote. And then in that very same moment, it was like a higher sense of myself came in and said, your energy work is exactly like this.
I love that, because at the beginning you were describing the physical organs and how they have levels and dimensions. And when you were saying that, it reminded me, I studied a long time ago with he was a musician, and his name is, oh, maybe I shouldn't quote him here. I don't know if I should quote him now. Anyway, I will. Fabien, Fabien Mama. He was a musician, and then he gave that up and trained as an acupuncturist, and then went on to teach people all about sound and frequencies and the stars. And I did a course with him. And now I forgot what I was gonna say. What was I gonna say? Oh yes, I was gonna talk about the organs and the energy of the organs, and how the energy of how he saw that the energy of the organs, in fact, the whole body was like a piano, that they each had notes, but not the notes that they follow each other in the piano, but if you could see the organs kind of playing like an orchestra, so they don't play the notes next to each other because that would be dissonant. They're playing this beautiful harmonics of, cycle of fifths or cycle of seven, or if they're balanced, if they're in tune. So yeah, that was a piece. Yeah, and so the dimensions of the physical are not separate from the dimension of all things, right? Of the universe. And if we only see it that way, I think we can improve connection, or we can fine-tune connection.
Yeah,
Which is what you
yeah,
do.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there was something else I was wanting to say that it, like what you just said, triggered it. Um, I think in possibly maybe our last video, we were talking about frequency match of
Yes.
like tapping into and um, having an embodiment. That's a word that I've been using lately. We'll pursue that in a little bit here. But we embody the higher frequencies that are a part of ourselves, like our higher spectrum or higher overtone series, if you will. And then when we're at this level, then we can connect, like with our star friends. And this is exactly what happens in my sessions with Michael. We don't work at making a connection. There's really nothing we do. I just go down, come into his office, lay down on his acupuncture table, relax, and there we are. There we are with the beings. In fact, some really extraordinary things happen even before I walk in his office. I'm sitting in a chair in the waiting room, and connections are already happening. A couple years ago, I was just sitting there minding my own business, and all of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, there's this huge presence here, a huge energetic presence. And it was a whale that connected with me. And then we went out together in the stars. And so that happened right there in the waiting room, before I even walked in and saw Michael. So these kinds of experiences can happen to us anytime, anywhere.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell
There
us
was one
about,
thing.
yeah, go on.
Oh, yeah, there was one thing I wanted to mention in the previous interview. I was talking about two new star beings, that started working with Michael and myself. And I remembered the first one was a feminine being. It was a humanoid being, and she had like a pinkish skin. And Michael was the first one to see her. And so he described her in this way, and also described a bump in her forehead. And she had shown up a number of times in our sessions. But the second one, for some reason, I was just drawing a blank. But I would like to share something about this second star being, because it really came as a surprise. It's a blue avian star being. Um, and I had heard about these kinds of beings over the years, but this was the first time one actually joined us in our sessions. And so this being feels more masculine to me. And he has a particular quality of energy. And so he's helped us a number of times, just within the last few months.
So what would you say is the main not the main message, but the main support system? And I'm really veering towards the collaboration part that we spoke about, and
Mhm.
how I trust that we as humanity are getting closer, maybe because of the events that are occurring around us, and in the political arenas, or in the military systems that are so out of balance. It's so obvious that it's out of balance, that maybe everybody is going to be ready to be in balance and to return to collaboration. And yeah, so if another thing that I wanted to mention is that it feels really important that we are not working alone anymore. That, as you have this collaboration, this exchange, this support system with Michael Perfetto, and with other people, and I guess we also have that. It feels really important for us to 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 understand that we're powerful together. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very much like pieces of a puzzle or piece of a picture that, they all fit together. And I really like to use the analogy of a music orchestra, that you have all of the different instruments. Like an English horn sounds different from a trombone, and a piccolo sounds different from a tuba. But each one is just as important as the other. Each one has its specific role, and it definitely feels to me that the star nations are working with us like being an orchestra, that there's many ways that they're helping us. Some star beings are helping with the oceans, is an example. Others are working like with medical researchers. Some are probably working with, politicians even. So yeah, many different ways. There's times when I struggle with with finding others, in thinking that, well, like maybe I need to be connecting with more people. And some of the people that I know about in the UFO community is an example. They do TV shows, they do conferences, they write books, they do podcasts, and that doesn't appeal to me. I guess I'm a little more introverted in that sense, but it's been clear to me that I have a particular lane that I'm working in. Particular kinds of star beings that I'm working with, how I see myself being beyond the physical that we see right here. The energy practices that I do each day, the blogs that I see as being an important part of the higher level connecting work. It's another form of energy grounding. That's clear to me. So, there's times that I just question myself and think, well, should I be connecting with more people? And I guess I just have to trust that somehow, like my blogs or the videos that we're making, will connect with the right people. It'll come about in the right way, in the right time. But you saw the last blog entry, that I posted,
Yeah.
I think yesterday. This came, because I was just having those thoughts going through my mind. And what came to me is basically just connecting with 9 people, finding 9 people that really, really get what I'm experiencing. And in turn, I can really get what they're experiencing. And in this vision that came to me, it was really based on a dream that I had in 2018. And at the time, it seemed rather cryptic to me. In this dream, I heard the words birth of stars.
Mm.
And what was really interesting about this is that then I saw many stars appearing, but it wasn't at night. It was in the early morning sky. So I found that interesting. And then I understood that each of these stars then had planets. They're part of a solar system. And then I heard the words, "This is how humanity awakens." So I had the sense that the stars represented people that were coming into greater understanding about themselves. And then the planets would be their circle of family, circle of friends. And the star would then have positive influences in the lives of these other people. So when I remembered that dream, um, fresh insights were coming to me that basically confirmed my understanding, that I had in 2018 of the stars being somebody that, is getting into higher consciousness. And then the planets would be, people that they're connecting with. And then I heard the words powers of nine. And then I saw then, and I also like to use the word emergence. This describes an emergence process or an emergent process. And so here we would have the stars shedding light on the planets. And then as the people that are represented by the planets awaken themselves, they in turn become stars. And then they would, in this pattern of nine, then they would have nine planets that they would begin to work with. So this pattern would just continue and continue and continue. So I got out my handy calculator and started going through the powers of like starting with nine as the first power, which would be nine, of course, and then nine to the second power, then would be 81. And then it just, expanded and expanded. And soon you're looking at hundreds, you're looking at thousands, you're looking at millions. And I think I capped it off with more than 300 million people in this progression of going from just one person, or like with nine friends, if you will. And so when I stepped back and looked at that, it was like, oh my God, this is just breathtaking. Um, and there was a part of me that felt, this is what I'm already doing. I don't have to seek out, nine new people. There's already more than that in my family, particular friends, people that I actually know that are also on Facebook, and people that I don't personally know on Facebook, but we've gotten to be really tight, like you. We've never met in person, and look, all of this is happening. And how everything that you're putting on Facebook is helping people, our videos are helping people. So it is this vast progression uh, uh, rippling out through society.
Yeah, absolutely. And we could call that a fractal too, right? The
Yes.
universe is fractal as well. And so it must be that evolution is also fractal. So, and I don't think there is an implosion. There's only a progression, is only an outer expansiveness.
Mm-hmm.
I always say this, that nobody's immune to evolution. It's happening. It's
Mm-hmm.
all around us. It's a fast river, and yeah, we might as well adjust it and enjoy it. We might as well be awake and aware and have these moments, as you say, it's breathtaking. We do have those moments where I'm like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
um Yeah, it is an amazing and powerful time to be aware of what is occurring. And I love that you share what you share with such humbleness and such gentleness. And also such commitment, because you know that that isn't just benefiting you, is benefiting the
Mhm.
others, as you say, your family or
Mhm.
your
Yeah.
group of friends and whoever might stumble on your writings. Um, there is such a I want to say an organic beauty. I don't know if that quite cuts it, but as you say, we could go with the machine, because I think the machines are real out there, in terms of algorithms and getting lots of followers on Instagram, and I'm always like thinking, oh, should I do this? Should I, should I jump into that? And there's always a part of me that resists, because I'm thinking, well, for whatever reason, I'm doing what I'm doing, and it's reaching the people that are needing. Not needing isn't the word, but that are ready or are in resonance with what we are creating together in this now moment, but also in the future moments. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful process. And, for me, it's just a reminder of the realities that are beyond the physical. That when we're able to have these high level experiences, we can see that we're part of a vast community. We talk about trees, so it's kind of like a vast forest of trees that are connected. And, it's only at this density that we think of ourselves as being separate. But, that's just a perception from this particular density.
Yeah, so true. So true. I've been writing about that too. Changing. It's time to change perception, because that's
Yeah,
that's all it is how we choose to see. Yeah. Thank you.
yeah. I took some I took some notes this morning. Like I looked up when we made our previous video, and it was on May 15th. So then I looked at my blog entries after that, and there was quite a bit there, but it seemed like there was just a few things here I wanted to kind of center in on. Um, I used the word embodiment, when we first started the video today. And this word actually came, let me see, I'm trying to find where it is in my notes. Yeah, toward the end of June, in one of the sessions that Michael and I had. Um, as I remember, the energy work just was beginning, and I heard three words very distinctly. The first was Mayan, the second was time capsule, which was really interesting to me. My ears kind of perked up when I heard that. And then the word embodiment. And when I heard those words, I started getting images of a dream that I had. Interestingly, there was also in 2018. And in this dream, it looked like it was in New York City. And I was with a group of people. We were walking down the sidewalk, and we were walking toward a building that I knew had storage lockers. Like it might have been something like Penn Station or something like that. Um, in the dream, I didn't see us arriving. So I didn't see the lockers, and I didn't know what's possibly inside them. But as I saw myself walking with the others, um, one of the things that stood out for me is that we had a sense of determination, or I'm sorry, sense of purpose. That's the word. That's the word I was looking for, a sense of purpose. So images of that dream came back to me with those, with those words. And then all of a sudden it's like I'm seeing more. What I realized is that the storage locker is myself. And the new word, time capsule, that's also myself. And it's also the others, that I was with. And what I understood is that there's things within myself, within my higher nature, if you will, or higher self, that I'm in the process of remembering or experiencing again. And the process of remembering, I see that as the word embodiment, because I'm bringing it back down into myself. And that, I think, is a pretty good confirmation of what's currently happening, with the work that Michael and I are doing, and then my individual work, and yourself, and so many others. It's a process of remembering and then embodiment. And then whatever these skills are, whatever these practices or things we need to know are coming down to us, then we're able to share those with others.
Yes, absolutely. I feel that too. And this is why I was mentioning about finding the others and collaboration, and how
Yeah,
it doesn't feel, even to the level of returning to interconnectedness. We
mm,
need to interconnect to something else other than ourselves, right? So it
yeah,
has to begin with us. It has to begin with I reconnect to the truth of my being. But then what do I do with it?
yeah, yeah. We use it.
We
Yeah,
use it. We
and
use it. We offer it. We express it.
we
Yeah,
live it. Yeah, we live it.
we live it. I love that. We live
Yeah,
it.
don't have to use words. It's just how we're behaving, how we're living our life with other people. Yeah. The word Mayan, that was interesting to me, because one of my practices draws upon the Mayan cycle that's called the Cholkin. It's a 200-day cycle, and I've described this in some of our other videos, but very briefly, uh, it has 20 numbers from 1 to 13, and then 20 day signs that represent different things. And I think of it as combining energy with intelligence. Energy being the numbers, going from 1 to 13 as a vibratory scale, if you will. And then the 20-day signs, um, they can, how to describe this? I think of them as like intelligences, and there's connections between the day signs and the Cholkin with some of the characters and images that are in the Pulpava, the Mayan sacred book, um, the creation story. Um, and for a long time, it felt to me that the Pulpava has connections with the stars. And around 20, 25 years ago, I had a intuitive reading that I mentioned in our last video, and information was given to me that I was part of a team that came from the Pleiades to Mesoamerica in ancient times. So it feels to me that I have these ancient connections with what's now called the chol, and there would be a version of it in the stars. And so over the years, I had worked with a wonderful Maya elder, Rigoberto Itzip. And one of the teachings that he gave me just kind of opened up the door. He sent me a handwritten drawing of a fixed arm cross. And then the day signs would be put on, 5 day signs would be put on each arm, like east, west, north, and south. And I don't want to go too much into detail, but the how each of the day signs has a direction, a color, and an element. And then based on that, it would be put on one of the arms of the cross. And so as I worked with this energetically, in particular, then its element, it just really opened doors for me, and it seems like I am remembering now the Cholkeen as an energetic practice, the way it would be in the Pleiades. So this is part of the practice that I do each morning, in doing that energy work. So I do feel these ancient Mayan connections. But something that's been very curious this year in particular, there's been more messages and dreams drawing upon Indigenous American people. And then along with that, visions of a Mayan pyramid. And boy, this gets into a little bit more detail, but I really wanted to share this. I think in our past video, I've talked about the energetic triangle that I experienced first in medical Chi Gong, that I felt the Electra star system in my left arm, energies that I considered yin. And then Arcturian energies in my right hand that I considered expansive or yang rather. And then in the forehead, balance, and I connected that with Alnilam, the middle star in Orion's belt. And so I felt the connection with, yin, yang, and then balance. And after first experiencing that energetically and making these connections with the star systems, this is a practice that I do each evening, before going to sleep. And so when I do this energetic connection, I see, I see the triangle, and I see it being like a translucent interior. But what started happening is that starting just like maybe a couple months ago, I would start to see a Mayan pyramid in the interior of that energetic triangle. And the first time I had this experience, I saw the pyramid and I heard the words, "This is me." That was, boy, that was really extraordinary. And So more has been happening, more and more and more has been happening. And just recently, there's been an additional step to this. Again, I'm connecting with the energetic triangle. I see the translucent. I see the translucent interior. But now, instead of seeing the Mayan pyramid, there's like a flip, a sudden flip. And now I'm on the inside and I'm looking out from it. And I physically feel myself inside, inside this energetic triangle. So this is like a brand new thing that's been happening. And the best that I can think of is that I think it goes back to embodiment.
So having reached a level, because you have been working with these energies to the point that you really recognize them, that they're I used to say that when you really so closely connected with the energy, whether it's you or a frequency, it's like your friend, you know them and they are expecting you and you are expecting this connection, and it's so easy. And so as you were describing the triangle with the different star systems, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, how amazing is that? Because each the star families and the whole history, galactic history,
Mm-hmm.
and we just knew about the frequency of the stars alone, the harmonics of the stars, and then create this wherever, I guess people might have it different ways to you. But I love that eventually you are it. You have always been it. And now, as you say, the emergence of you as the embodiment of the frequencies. That is so powerful.
Hmm. Yeah.
That is so powerful. Yeah, I'm also very connected to both Arcturus and Anilamen and Mesa. So be interesting for me to try it and see how that sits in my field. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was really wanting to tell you about this because it is a
Yeah.
pretty much a brand new thing. And again, it happened just last night. But the feeling of how I described this flip is I mean, it's just really extraordinary. I mean, it's like a physical sensation of,
Uh-huh.
being on the outside of the triangle, visualizing, and then, and then there I am inside it. When I told Michael about it, he was really, yeah, he was really happy. He was really happy about that. Um, but there was another thing about that particular session that I had with Michael. I think this stuff happened, yeah, in our session toward the end of July. Um, there's like another variation of that um, because, again, it's something that's just been increasing this year. And again, I have to step back and think, okay, well, all this stuff is happening politically and everything. And, there's all this very destructive um, um, how would I say it? Well, low frequency, behaviors. This is happening, but then conversely, there's all these higher level things that seem to be, accelerating and accelerating and accelerating. So I think, uh, might have been in one of our videos, I talked about how an image of a teeter-totter came to me, um, and how that represents cycles of yin and yang, as well as Newton's third law. of movement. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So I think we're seeing these things ourselves this year, in particular with, both really despicable things going on and then incredibly um, inspiring and, expansive things happening, at the very same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. I have written about the, you know, how I feel, how I
Mhm.
if I don't even know if the word is project, but if I project myself into a future where I remember that we are far more in tune with all of life and with ourselves, um, we are so much more able to be making choices that are benefiting the whole. And I know it sounds like a bumper sticker, but it's because we are so aware of cause and effect. We're so aware that the moment I choose here, or if I speak it here, it's reverberating throughout the universe for maybe decades, millennia. And
Mhm.
so we become far more aware of frequency and the energies that we are choosing. And even as you were just, teaching me that I can combine this planetary harmonics or star harmonics and
Yeah.
now create a new geometry that has a whole new, I know, I don't know what to call it, a color of frequencies that I can be part of and experience. Then, yeah, I mean, the choices we have to do good and to be as curious and as expansive as we want, or to be as destructive as it's occurring. And yeah, I I I want to say that it's just so easy to be in the curiosity what could be if we choose to understand that we are together, and literally we are in this ship together, we're on this planet together. And
Mhm.
yeah, and the whole story of separation and even borders and passports and yeah, all of that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. A lot of things to change. Yeah.
Yeah,
One thing I think it might be helpful if I clarify it, or maybe give a little bit of backstory about about those three star systems, is that over time, uh, in particular, I think most of these actually happened during the medical qigong sessions with Michael. There would be visions of being in a structure or a pyramid in each of those three. And it started out with the golden pyramid in the Electra system that's part of the Pleiades star cluster. And then I saw myself in that pyramid. It was hollow and very highly refined. As Michael would say, energy work is done in that pyramid, and people from other star systems come there, for that work. And the first time I saw myself in there, I remember I was looking for words to describe it, and so what I heard were the words making deep connections. And based on that, and then other experiences that I've had with it, that's where I associated it being yin. And then with Arcturus, Michael first had an image of a structure, and there were three star beings standing in front of it. And right off, I understood that they were Arcturians. And then over time, we had various kinds of experiences in that structure and with those beings, with a council, an Arcturian council there. And the experiences were very different from what I had, in that golden pyramid, in the Electra system. Instead of deep connections, it was like making expansive connections. I had visions of streams of uh, like light strands, going from my heart out to uh, all of the star systems that are part of the Star Nations community. So, that would be Yang, of course. And then most recently, well, I guess this was like maybe a couple years ago after you told me about Alnilam in our first video, I started having visions of a pyramid um, in that star system. And I remember at first I thought it was a Mayan pyramid, but as I did energy readings on it, it was no, this is this is in the stars, this is in the on system. And inside that pyramid, I remember seeing a very dark purple color. And then I came to understand that uh, the people, the higher level beings in that star system do balancing work, on a vast scale. So having actual experiences in structures on each of those three star systems, that was the foundation, if you will, for connecting with those energies and then somehow making them a part of myself.
Yes, thank you. So it's like you're building on the experience and on the
Yes.
deeper understanding. So you deepen and you deepen and you deepen. So
Yeah.
to create something because that's your experience is not the same as me having my own experience and then building from that. Yes, absolutely. I feel that too. I feel that's very important that we each have our own experience and that we allow ourselves to build because it really happens. I know I've held people and groups for so long where, as you say, we practice this thing which now we just call it the 3 minutes because it's just 3 minutes a day. And the insights and the awareness and the deepening of ourselves and the universe, it it builds on. So it's not just like, oh, today I see a lake, today I see a tree. It's a continuous story. It's a thread that is infinite. So connecting to your own experience. Yes, thank you for that because you understood the frequency of it and the geometry of it and the yeah, I guess even the music of it. And then you built, yes, just like you were saying about the orchestra and the different instruments. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's still a process. There is a experience maybe a couple weeks ago. I had mentioned how I had been seeing images of the pyramid in Alnilam, and I'd also been seeing images of a Mayan pyramid. Excuse me. What happened in this recent session with Michael is that I was seeing both pyramids, and then they combined energetically. And then I heard the word alchemy. So I'm still working with that. I haven't entirely processed that yet, but I think that's pretty neat. That's really neat. There's
Yeah. you.
Something else I wanted to make sure I share with you, because this is mind blowing. I guess it was in maybe 2020. I know I've told this to you, but I need to say the story again because it all fits together. Of how, when I was beginning to see the Golden Pyramid, and I knew that it was in the Electra star system, a message came to Michael for me that said Kazinan is home.
Mm.
And, as I described, then I did a series of energy readings on those and understood that it was the fourth planet in the Electra system, and that the Golden Pyramid is on that planet. And, for a period of time, I was, having dreams of being on another planet, and, it things looking different, and seeing like a group of people and wondering if they were, like part of my star family, and I would see different landscapes and things. So it was that message that Michael got that connected me with knowing about the fourth planet. And then it's apparently its star name. It's not an English name, Kazanan. So I'm assuming that that would be the actual name in that language on that planet. It happened again. Michael heard another word just last month, I think it was, and he wasn't sure how to pronounce it. He wrote it down as X-ONA. So he was kind of writing it in a Chinese, like an English version of like a Chinese word. Um, but I wasn't sure about it. And so again, when I got home, I was doing some energy readings with it. Um, I discovered that I would pronounce it as Sona, Sona. And then what I got in the energy readings is that this would be the actual star name for the Electra star, the Electra star system. So since then, I've been using the word Sona instead of saying Electra when I do my morning energy practice and make the various connections. And I noticed a distinct difference between saying Electra
The
and then saying
frequency.
Sona. Yeah, a definite
Yeah.
difference.
I feel that too. And especially the constellations, they were made and very, very accurate in some way, the constellations names holding, stories of mythology.
Mhm.
But I wonder if we used, the original names of the stars, how would inspire us so much more. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I often say that, especially in, with the big planets like Sirius, I say, tune in because it's probably not cold like that once you're on that side of the knowing. Sona. Okay. So
Sona.
Electra is one of the seven stars of the Pleiades, but of course there are so many more stars, but we
Oh
see
yeah. Oh yeah, the
seven. Yeah.
hundreds. Yeah, yeah, hundreds of stars in the uh, Pleiades star cluster. Yeah, yeah.
And so it would feel like you really have an affinity and I guess a familiarity, because you often speak about Electra and Kazinon and
Mhm.
how that is the frequency that you know so well, and how you can work with it and communicate with it and be part of it, and it's part of you, as you say, the embodiment, and that is, I feel, this is next level. This is where we're going, because I feel so often, not that I listen to, I don't read much in terms of media, but I remember when I was in the US that they were talking about disclosure and, will the star beings appear? And it's like, we are the star beings. We just
That's
have to
right.
remember
That's
we're
right.
here. Yes.
Yeah.
And as you exactly said, it's about now, okay, now how did you use the word? The vision or the dream that you were in New York, a locker, that
Yeah.
you have
Storage,
everything
storage locker.
stored, yeah. And
Storage locker.
even the word stored is a story, and unraveling those true stories instead of the fake stories or the lies that we,
Mhm.
especially the history that we are taught, and certain books that are out there, supposed to be the word of a higher power. And yeah, and so literally unraveling the true story rather than this fake ones would be like, this would be the next level. Then once we know, we can't unknow. Once we feel it, once, as you say, you're living it. So
Mhm.
nothing can stir you from that knowing, because you live it, because you felt it, because you understood it deeply within your, yeah, is understanding, maybe the word is remembering, but
Yeah.
it's, we are
Inner
sentient
knowing.
being. Hmm?
Inner knowing.
Inner knowing, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, more of that. More of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wanted to mention one more thing here. I think we're probably starting to run out of time here, but you mentioned
No,
disclosure.
please go on. Yeah, please go
Yeah,
on.
you mentioned
Sorry, that
disclosure.
was my dog barking earlier. I don't know if that was coming through.
No, I didn't hear.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Um, I think in our last video, I talked about this dream that I had toward the beginning of May, and this was extraordinary, truly extraordinary. In the dream, I was at I was at a university that's in the Alcyon star system. That's also part of the Pleiades. But over the years, I've had any number of dreams about being at this school, in one way or another. Um, and so, with the dream, I was in a building and then a room at the university, and it was. I mean, I just had this emotional feeling of not only uh, knowing this place, but I was returning to it. It was, it was just such a strong emotion. I usually don't have such strong emotions within dreams, but
Mm,
I was definitely having that. And then in this room, I was in a meeting, um, and it was discussed that I, along with others, would be part of what was called a post-disclosure project. That this project is helping to train more Palladians to help humanity and the Earth after full disclosure has taken place. And with this, I understood that I'm already doing this now, in higher level experiences and, dreams, that kind of thing. Um, but then after I'm finished with this physical life, that would be one of the things that I would continue doing. So since I had that dream, I think I told you about that in our last video, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah, well, since then, I've had a bunch of dreams that have to do with the university, excuse me, being with groups of people at the school doing different things that are a part of the project. And one of the things that I've noticed is that many of these dreams, uh, what I'm doing there is being represented as music. And I know that seeing it as music is just like a covering, if you will. It's like, if I would have the direct experience of being there at that frequency in that part of my higher self, as my Pleiadian self, I would probably see it in different ways. But from what I'm experiencing here in the dreams, I'm seeing these as being music in different ways. Uh, let me see, I wrote down a couple of them. Yeah, in one of the dreams, so I was with a group, and each person gave a presentation of the particular skills that he or she was going to use in this project. Um, let's see. I had also, oh yeah, there was another dream that I was also with a group, and I remember that I was taking notes. Um, and it also came to me that when I see music in these dreams, as part of this project, um, I'm seeing music as representing higher expressions of light, sound, and vibration. So I guess what I'm getting is that in having these dreams, I'm gradually getting more and more of a sense of the particular uh, kind of work the Palladians will then do, when they're coming here to help humanity. It seems to me that it has a lot to do with energy work, and sound and frequency.
Yes, for sure. I mean, the way that I'm researching water and plasma and the interstellar communications through water and plasma, everything from my tiny perspective, from what I see, is that everything is about creating. And so to create, we need, I call it the geometry, and the geometry is notes and yes, frequency. And I feel that we are going to remember how to create more, how to expand, expand universes, expanding creation. I feel we are not limited to planet Earth, although we're dedicated to Earth. We came here to be on Earth and to be part of this cycle and to be part of hopefully the healing and the evolution. But of course, our soul doesn't end here. We have this continuum going. So I love what you
Right.
said. Thank you.
Yeah, 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 and part of the, like in having that original dream, afterwards I understood that this project is Palladian, but there's numerous other projects that are being undertaken by other star systems, to work in their particular way. And all of this is being coordinated then with the star nations. Um, and it'll just be many, many, many ways to help humanity and the planet. So I can't wait.
We
I can't.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yes, likewise. Me too. And it feels in so many ways that we are part of a history that hasn't occurred yet. We can
There you
look
go.
back in the history of evolution or civilization, how, as you were mentioning, the Mayans and their ancient wisdom, and how they left information for the future generations. And
Mhm.
certainly I'm very close to Egypt and all of
Right.
the Egyptian, all that was left there. And then there is us, and what are we gonna leave here? What are we gonna, I mean, there must be some kind of harmonics that we leave. So we are creating a history for the future in the now. So it's
Yeah.
definitely exciting to be present, as you said, and to be embodied in the, oh, I love the word that you used. It wasn't codes. I guess the inner knowing that you have
Mm.
that within you, and now you are like, okay, now you enter it, and you're yeah, you're not just wearing it, but you're active in it, or you living it.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's
Yeah.
that's disclosure.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Like I also have a inner knowing, if you will, that the Earth is not the first rodeo for the star nations. There's been many other planets that the star nations have helped to evolve to the point where they had their uh, full disclosure. Um,
And do
but
you
yeah, I was just kind of pausing for a moment and thinking, because as I said those words, it's kind of like, wait a minute, there's something here that's not exactly right in terms of what I just said. I think the Earth is rather special given our circumstance, given the giving the diversity and the ways that diversity is having so much conflict, on this planet. Other planets could be different from how the Earth is. Um, I'm kind of getting words that the Earth is hard. What we're going through now is harder for the star nations than some of the other planets that wouldn't have the level of um, division and conflict, as we have here.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. My sense is that in many ways, we are precious humans because we carry the many lineages of the stars in the one physical body, but in the awareness of us, in the literally in the star lineage of us. We are a bit of a soup. So we're a bit of a galactic soup, but a very precious one. And
Mm-hmm.
my other sense is that we've never been here before. We've always got so close to this point. We've arrived at this particular point where we could just make this quantum leap and become so much more aware of what I was saying, interconnectedness, and what we create affects the multiverses. But we haven't got here before. This is why so many of us are here at this time. And, I get the pleasure to meet so many of you guys incarnate right now. But with that is also very new. So we have arrived of a threshold that nobody on Earth has arrived before. And what comes is so much what we will create with, yeah, with the frequencies and the harmonics of life itself. Does that make sense to you? Is
Oh
that how
yeah.
you feel? Yeah,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 That definitely rings true to me.
yeah. So I feel this is why there are so many, also the contrasting energy, let's call it contrasting, where everything feels like there is distraction and almost like we are at a point of collapse or societal collapse. But I think it's because we've never lived through it before, so we've never been witnessing the, I guess, what held people back, or what held humanity from evolving, or how we just simply forgot that we had, as you said, the parts, the architecture or the technology. We are the technology to reconnect. And I feel excited about that. There are so many of us here and able to hopefully, look at each other and take that one last step forward.
Yeah. I remember a couple years ago, I had a dream about being on another planet, and I don't know what star system it was in. Um, but I saw it was kind of like a complex of structures, and there was like an open space between them, and there was a group of people doing an energy practice, and I joined them. And afterwards, they asked me to speak. And so I talked about the current conditions on Earth. And one of the things that I remembered, and I was able to write down in my blog, is that I said something to the effect of the um, current conditions of polarized conflict, that this was creating friction between the poles, and this was generating great energy, and then it would serve then as a springboard for for the people then to get into like a higher state. That we have to go through this intense butting heads, but then something's going to happen, something's going to snap, and
Yes.
then I think hopefully then people will be able to see one another with much better clarity than what we have now.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I feel ultimately is about allowing ourselves to see the truth.
Mhm. There was one last thing I wanted to share, and um, as I mentioned earlier, for whatever reason, I've been having numerous dreams so far this year, not just about Mayan pyramids, but then also seeing indigenous American, like North American images of like uh, being invited into some ceremonies. I remember it was one dream, but two of the dreams stand out as having messages for humanity. The first was an image of a white buffalo calf woman, and Michael saw her holding a feather, and then she said the words, "Tread lightly on the earth."
Mm.
And then in our last session, um, Michael saw an image of an indigenous American man, and he described him as having a stern appearance and being rooted. Um, Extraordinarily, Michael had a sense of smell, and he said that there was a very strong smell of leather with the man's clothing.
Mm.
And Michael just had this image, um, but it was after our session when I was driving home. I felt the man's, the being's presence, um, and I heard the words, "Attacks on Mother Earth need to stop." So there's these are just two examples of messages from spirit or messages from higher level beings that are um, basically saying the destructive things that the current U.S. administration are doing against nature and other people. This has to stop. And I think there was another session where I felt the presence of Chief Golden Light Eagle. And with that, I was having visions of the 1111 symbols. And the sense of it that I had is that so much stuff being done now politically is in direct violation with the 1111 star laws. And so that needs to stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The balance, eventually everything returns back to balance. So to continue to remain out of harmonics won't end well. And I feel, again, going back to what we just said, is it's because there are so many of us here that I have such positive visions of the future, because there are so many of us holding the frequency and the harmonics of a benevolent future for it
Yeah.
to make far more of an impact. But yes, I agree. It is a pressing moment. And we were speaking, I think just before we recorded this, we were talking about how long will it take. I think we were having this conversation, and there is some indicators that by February to May next year, things are looking very different. But we're still on this curve up to, yeah, I want to say 2032, 2033. So, but whatever we choose now individually, and then how we be in the world, will have this massive reverberation to this curve, to how we get to 2032 to 2033. So
Mhm.
this is why it's so important to share what you have to share. And anybody else listening here, if you're hiding in the background and you have messages, then do your bit, do it the way you want to do it, whether it's through art or through music or writing a book or whatever it is. It's time for us all to be, as you said, embodying who we are. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Thank you very
Well,
much,
we had
dear Roger.
another good one, another
Thank
great video. I really enjoyed this.
Yes, likewise. And so thank you for your time and for all the shares. Thank you for your commitment to be so present with all of the frequencies and all of the messages that come. You so dedicatedly record it, and you can make sense of how the evolution is occurring in your own life, but also for the people listening. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And thank you everybody else for being here with us. And we'll see you all very soon. Thank you so much, dear Roger. And I'll put your details, as always, in the um, in the description of the video.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Well,
Much love.
until the next one.
Thank you so much.